Zach is back. It's the Zach Gelb Show on Fox Sports 920 The Jersey.
Welcome back. Time in the Princeton Orthopedic Associates Studios is 5:17. About 43 minutes left in the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. Before I enjoy my weekend, it's raining right now as I'm looking outside here, sitting in Princeton, New Jersey. And one of my radio mentors is Sid Rosenberg. Sid put me back on the air at WFAN in New York when I was about 7 or 8 years old, and I was ranting and raving to Joe Beningo how much better my Patriots are than his Jets. But really, myself and Sid have always had a great relationship. He likes to call me his radio son, and when Sid was out in Florida at 640 Sports, Sid started to incorporate a lot of real-world issues in his shows, and it's no surprise because of his background used to being on WFAN and then also the Imus in the Morning program. And Sid always talked to me that and really taught me that Jason Worth sliding into a bag isn't a real-world issue. The real-world issues are the senseless crimes that are going on right now in Louisiana, Minnesota, and Dallas. So I thought it was perfect to bring Sid Rosenberg on the show today. And let's go out to Sid right now as he joins us on the Zach Gelb Show. Sid, how are you?
Zachy, I'm so proud of you, kid. Yes, from that tender age of 7 in your Tom Brady jersey in the studios of WFAN to your father, Bob, who's a genius and a hero in our business, to where you are today. I couldn't be prouder, and you're great. I say that from a place of you're great, so congratulations, Zachy.
Well, I appreciate it so much, and you've done a lot in my career and really putting me on everywhere you go, and you had a lot of stops along the way, but now you're back in New York, and I'm happy for you. I listen to the Bernie and Sid show all the time, and I knew you were filling in for Imus on July 4th. It's great.
Yeah, no, that was pretty cool, no question about it. I was 8 years old, and my dad would drive me to school, Poly Prep in Brooklyn, New York. I'm talking about the mid-1970s, listening to Imus in the Morning, and then 30-something years later, there I was this Monday hosting his program. And I'm on Imus' show every Tuesday with Bernie as well. I did Imus the sports on his show for 5 or 6 years, but to host it on Monday, that was pretty cool. And yes, the Bernie and Sid show, 10 to noon every weekday on 77 WABC in New York, is kicking ass. We're doing a great job. So, and this is the time of year. This is the perfect time for me to make the real switch now, not politics and sports, just politics, because as much as I love sports, right now this election year, Zach, providing us with an amazing amount of intrigue and interest.
Did I ever tell you about the one time I talked to Imus?
No, I'm afraid to ask, to be honest. I know your father has a lot of bad stories.
Yeah, Imus once pulled a gun on him and said, hey, don't ever smoke again in front of my kid. But the one time I had a conversation with Imus, I think I was about like 5 or 6 years old. I was in the elevator that was, I believe, the dumps of Kaufman Astoria Studios, and I go into work with my dad. Imus walks into the elevator, and I go, oh, Dad, isn't that the grouchy grandpa that you always talk about?
If you could only take that one back. I tell you what, though, all the guys that talk about Imus and how relevant he is or irrelevant, or with Boomer and Craig on in the morning and Stern on satellite, I can tell you this, he still demands a huge audience. He's still the guy to get every congressman, every representative, all the big politicians from New York to D.C. still come on his show. He still has an amazing amount of sway in the business. So Don Imus is still the man in this business.
I wonder what you would be saying if you didn't work at WABC.
I would say he's a horrible guy.
Sid Rosenberg joins us. So, Sid, the big reason why I wanted to have you on today, and I opened my show with the senseless acts of violence in Louisiana, Minnesota, and Dallas, because sometimes you have to put the sports on the back burner. But after seeing what's been going on the last few days, we live in one scary world. What's your reaction?
Yeah, no, you said it best just now. We live in a scary world, Zach. I've got a son who's 7 years old. I've got a daughter who's 12. And listen to me, don't get me wrong. I'm very excited that the Knicks got Derrick Rose, Joakim Noah, and Courtney Lee last week. Believe me, I am. And I'm looking forward to what the Giants can do this year with Ben McAdoo as a first-year coach. And despite Matt Harvey going down for the season, I still think there's hope left for the Mets. But with all that said, all that pales in comparison to what's really going on in the world today, which is racism right now, really at an all-time high in my lifetime. Look, I was born in 1967. I can't go back to the 60s and tell you what it was like. Either can you, obviously. But talking to my parents and grandparents, they say it hasn't been this ugly, the racial divide in this country, for 5 decades. On top of that, we've got terrorism all over the world, people trying to kill us from Iraq to Syria to Iran to Jordan to Yemen to here, right here in the United States. So between what's going on in the streets here in the United States and around the world, this is a very, very scary time for all of us here in America.
And we saw the 2 officers in New York who were killed not that long ago. In Dallas, 5 police officers now dead who are just doing their job on a daily basis, like trying to protect the people in Dallas, and 7 more police officers injured. How is this going to change? How do innocent people stop getting killed by the police, and how do the police stop killing innocent people?
Well, that's the question, and maybe Hillary Clinton and or Donald Trump have the answer for it. I don't know. I think where it changes, Zach, is going to sound very cliche and very all in the family, not all in the family, I said talkie punker, but very family, and that is in the house. You know, we've got to teach our kids at a very early age that color and creed and religion shouldn't matter. I mean, what we've got right now, to be honest, Bernie and I had Bernard Kerrick on the program today, former New York City Police Commissioner, is a very skittish police department that feels like inside the African-American community that they are, if not the hunted, then they are certainly the ones that that community doesn't like. On the other side, you've got black folks here in America that think the cops are after them. So the question becomes, how do you cure that? Well, I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. I'm not a politician. I can tell you this. I started home with my kids. I explained to my 2 young kids that, again, regardless of race, color, creed, everybody's equal, everybody's the same, and don't hate. But unfortunately, I believe it's a bit too late in some of these communities and with some of these cops.
Now, with Barack Obama, you've heard his comments, and you also heard the governor of Minnesota's comments. What were your reaction to those 2 comments?
I think Barack Obama is a big problem here. I really, really do. I mean, it's no coincidence, in my opinion, that this racial divide is bigger than ever since he's been in office the last 7 years, which you would think with an African-American man as president, it would have gotten better, and it's gotten worse. You know, when he comes out last night and starts stating statistics about how many African-American guys and Latinos are in jail and how quickly they get stopped and all this nonsense, what he fails to say is that the truth is a majority of these crimes are being committed by African-American males. That's why they're in prison. That's why they get stopped. If you're going to be fair about this thing, tell the whole story. And the truth is, when he does stuff like that, he really puts the police behind the 8 ball. You know, this is a guy that's got to come out and say, look, I feel horrible for my brothers and sisters getting killed innocently in the streets, but the cops are out there every single day putting their lives on the line and doing a great job to protect us. He does not do that. Time and time again, it seems like he's ultra sympathetic to the victims, which he should be, and he polarizes the cops, which he shouldn't be. And I can tell you, talking to police here in New York City, cops and people high in rank in the cops here in New York, they know it. They are quick to blame Barack Obama. Bernie Kerrick blamed Barack Obama on our show today. So if he sets the tone for the country, and he's going to be that type of guy to be very accusatory, what does that say? So in my opinion, people like Barack Obama, the governor of Minnesota, who said what he said, they are part of the bigger problem, which is the cops don't feel like they have the support. You heard the guy in Dallas say that today, Chief of Police David Brown. First thing he said was, we don't feel like we get support every single day, and they don't, and it starts with the president.
When I look at it, and you have what happened in a situation like Minnesota, and that guy was supposedly a beloved cafeteria manager in his school, and there should be no reason why he's no longer living. It's disgusting what absolutely happened. But here's the big problem I have with what happened in Dallas. If you want to protest, and everything up until the shots went off last night, you heard it was a peaceful protest. If you want to protest, that's one thing. Police should not be killing innocent people. But where it gets out of hand and where it's disgusting and it contradicts your entire process, the protest, Sid, is when you start to kill innocent officers. That can't happen in our society.
Exactly right, especially innocent officers. They're out there knowing they're the ones being protested. Think of the irony right there for a second, Zach. They're the ones that are being protested, yet they're still out there putting their lives on the line, obviously, and trying to keep everything safe in Dallas. Look, I can tell you this about the Minnesota issue. It looks very, very ugly. There's no question. But I will also say this. We don't know the whole story. That's what Barack Obama fails every single time. He rushes to judgment. The video that we saw, all we saw in the very beginning of that video was the man was already shot. Odds are he was innocent. God rest his soul. I feel horrible for him and his fiancée. But that video starts after that man is shot, if you notice, Zach. We don't see what happened before that. So all I would say is this. Odds are that cop is guilty. I get it. But until we know the whole story, Barack Obama should know better than to rush to judgment and so should the American people. Because, again, as telling and as ugly as that video is, it does not start until the man has already been shot.
And I don't have a hatred for Barack Obama. I think he's been an okay president. Some stuff I think he gets killed for, which just isn't fair. But when I look at Obama, the next person that's going to be coming in, it's probably either going to be Trump or Hillary. Who do you think is going to take home this chase to the White House?
Well, listen, right now Donald Trump is the underdog. There's no question. But this was not a very good week for Hillary Clinton. When you combine what happened with Jim Comey, obviously, and the whole FBI scandal, which, by the way, has been reopened by the State Department one day after Loretta Lynch closed that. That's also bad news for Hillary. Combine that with what's going on around the country and people thinking that pretty much Hillary Clinton is just an extension of Barack Obama. This is an awful week for Hillary Clinton. What I think is going to happen is you have the convention in Cleveland next week. Yes, the site where LeBron James won the championship. The convention is in Cleveland next week. I think at that point, Donald Trump picks up the 4 or 5 points he has right now. He's behind Hillary Clinton. He leaves the convention instead of 4 or 5 points behind, probably tied, if not a point up. But then I believe when the convention goes to Philly, her team, the Democrats, then I think she gains 4 or 5 points. So I think it'll go back and forth over the next month. But I do believe that the last 2 months leading up to Election Day, Donald Trump will find himself 4 or 5 points behind Hillary Clinton. At that point, the onus is on Donald to find a way to get past her. Right now, if I had a bet, gun to my head, Hillary Clinton is the next president.
Well, whoever does win, I'll take the over-under on 4.5 years. I'll take the under on that. I don't see them serving 2 terms, either of them.
You got to be careful. You know, again, if Hillary wins, now you're talking about a 3rd term, really, for Barack Obama. And at that point, a 4th term does become likely, especially when you consider I don't see a heck of a lot of big-time Republicans down the road. I know people like Tom Cotton in Arkansas, 2 or 3 other names seem to pop up, but if Donald Trump loses here, that could be the death knell moving forward for the GOP.
We're talking to Sid Rosenberg, co-host of the Bernie and Sid Show. Right before we get to a little sports talk, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up. The gentleman, Patrick Zamarripa, who was the officer who served 3 tours in Iraq, is now dead because of what happened, the senseless acts in Dallas. And Sid, when I heard that story, I almost cried because I take a look at it. That's a guy that protected us up against an enemy in Iraq, and then he comes back home and his own people in the United States kill him. Just disgusting.
Yeah, but so did the killer. And let's not forget the killer was an Army reservist who spent time in Afghanistan. So he was a guy that also defended our country, and he did the murders. I believe 3 of the 5 cops that died in Dallas served time. Even the one Dart officer, God rest his soul, was a Marine. He was a Marine. So a lot of these guys did serve Iraq, including the shooter, who once again was an Army reservist who served in Afghanistan. That's part of the reason why he was such a good sharpshooter and was so accurate in doing what he did last night. Last night was the fact that he did, in fact, serve as an Army reservist.
It's just unbelievable what's going on in our country. We're talking to Sid. All right, Sid, you spent a bunch of years in Florida. I always think the Miami Heat fan is a fraud. That's one interesting situation that went on with Dwayne Wade and Pat Riley, though.
Well, I think so. You know, I think Heat fans thought he would retire there. He gave him 13 great years, 3 championships, one of which he won by himself when him and Shaq and those guys beat the Dallas Mavericks. And I was surprised to see him go. I thought there was a chance he would join LeBron James in Cleveland. I never thought he'd go anyplace else, to be honest. And look, $47 million is a lot of money. You know, at his age, his stage of the game, to demand nearly $24 million a year and to go home, by the way, he was going to do that. So in the end, here's how the story ends. LeBron James in Miami goes home to Cleveland. Dwayne Wade in Miami goes home to Chicago. Sid Rosenberg in Miami goes home to New York. Everybody, whoever said you can't go home, boy, they got that wrong, didn't they?
You're exactly right. And Sid, also, when I take a look at that whole Miami Heat situation, and you have to understand the market that I'm in right now. So I'm in Jersey. So some of the people, they're New York fans, and some of the people are Philly fans. The one thing that we could all agree on, because when I talk about the Giants, the Eagles fans hate it. When I talk about the Eagles, the Giant fans hate it, is we always like to call out the fake fan bases. And now Miami, there's going to be people still arriving late to those Heat games, but there just won't be as many.
Yeah, you're right. You know, they would wear white shirts. That was one of the things that annoyed me about the Miami Heat fans.
It's like a soccer crowd.
Right, or like a high school crowd at a pep rally wearing white T-shirts. Those were replaced by black shirts this year because on most nights, that place would be dead like a funeral.
You're exactly right. As we're talking to Sid Rosenberg, I don't know if that's the best time today to bring up that reference. Sid.
Maybe not today. But the good news is, on a much lighter note, in New York, it should be a pretty exciting season. I mean, look, obviously with Kevin Durant going to Golden State, you would think they're going to win at least 75 games and win the whole thing. Cleveland is still going to be very formidable with LeBron James. But if they can stay healthy, I know that's a big if, but if they can stay healthy, a starting 5 of Courtney Lee, Derrick Rose, Carmelo Anthony, Porzingis, and Joakim Noah, that's a pretty good basketball team. At least on paper, the Knicks are easily a top 4 seed in the East.
Sure, but you won't get past LeBron as it's LeBron's conference as we're talking to Sid Rosenberg. Let's get to the Mets. So Wilmer Flores has been red hot and 5 home runs in his last few games, but Terry Collins doesn't have him in the lineup again. I think that's a mistake by one Terry Collins.
I don't know what he's doing. I mean, so many years I worked with Joe Beningo and Evan Roberts at FAN. They are constantly killing Terry Collins. I thought they were over the top, and then Collins managed the Mets to the World Series last year, so I kind of got the last laugh. But in the end, I don't get it. The guy is red hot. He's on fire. A 6-for-6 night a couple of nights ago, as you said, homering now in all these games. And the Mets aren't exactly a potent offensive lineup. It's not as if they got so many guys who rock the ball they can afford to sit somebody who's very, very hot. So I don't get it. Terry Collins playing the numbers here, but like you, I got a red-hot ball player on a team that really struggles at times offensively. I'm playing that guy till he cools down. And
the player that is starting tonight at third base is going to be Jose Reyes, and Jose Reyes is getting a second chance, and you've gotten a few second chances in your career, to say the least. Just take me through the perspective.
No, but not the same.
No, yours is different. You're exactly right.
Listen, I mean, I've had my drug issues. I've had my alcohol issues. But when somebody
hits a woman, it's completely different. You're right.
Completely different. So when I see Met fans the other night, 40,000 of them, and I love the Mets too, and I love Jose Reyes, and he led the league in hitting. He was my favorite Met for years. I've got 10,000 Jose Reyes T-shirts. When I see New York Met fans, my brethren, standing and giving this bum a standing ovation after how he came here, I was embarrassed to be a Met fan. I really was.
All right, but let me ask you this. As someone that has been in a situation where you need to prove the critics wrong, and no one should be defending what Jose Reyes did. It was absolutely disgusting. He's lucky he's not in a jail cell compared to being on a baseball diamond. How do you prove people wrong and make people show that you're a good guy down deep?
You can't, because no matter how many base hits or home runs you get, that doesn't change the fact of what you did. I mean, I was never going to be a Michael Vick fan after what he did with those dogs. I don't care if he threw for 15,000 yards, ran for 60 touchdowns. Do I think he deserved a second chance? Sure, why not? We all get second chances. Like I said, I've had 8 or 9, depending, of course, on the severity of the crime. I'm not saying Jose Reyes shouldn't play baseball ever again. What I'm saying is no matter what he does on the field, I can never root for a guy like that, ever.
Yeah, it's a fair point, and you saw it in the NFL with Greg Hardy and everything that went down this year with the Dallas Cowboys.
Exactly. I don't care if Greg Hardy, if I'm a Cowboy fan, he has 30 sacks. I could never root for a guy like that, ever. Ever.
And the applause for Jose Reyes last night, I played the clip earlier in the show. He hit the home run in about 8 seconds, and it was like 30, 35 seconds. They're still giving him an ovation. The Mets fan, you're right. It doesn't surprise me that they're cheering him because he was beloved, but they're overdoing it. You're right.
Yeah, I would think, a smattering of applause at the very least would have been enough. But people say, well, you love Lawrence Taylor, and that's true. And LT and I are good friends to this day, and he's done some things above and beyond snorting cocaine and drinking that are over the top, and people will never forgive him. So I do understand that. But I think we got to draw the line at some point between how important is a stolen base, how important is a base hit, especially in today's society, where today we're talking about racial divide, we're talking about Americans killing each other, we're talking about a very scary time in America. To go to a baseball game and applaud a guy who hit his significant other, to me, is beyond disgusting.
Now, before we let you run, I just want to say this to you, because you've been a very, as you would say, a dear, dear, dear friend. Kevin Canessa still always gives me crap for saying dear friend for everyone. The former, he was your Northeast producer on Shovio when we both did shows there, and he was my technical engineer. I love Kevin Canessa, but before we let you run, I just want to say how proud I am of you, because really, you had all your demons, and now you fought those demons, and your new addiction, I guess, is going to the gym and taking names on the radio, because you've been absolutely killing it, and the Bernie and Sid show is just absolutely spectacular. So, Sid, you've been so kind to me through the years, and I just want to thank you for coming on and say you're doing a great job, and I know you're being a great father to Gabe and your daughter, Ava.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Zach. You know how much that means to me, more than anything else, more than career opportunities or the ABC job or who says good or bad things about me. At the end of the day, if my kids, and I just saw them here moments ago at the gym, love me and are happy with me as their dad, then I've won. And I've won to this point. So I'm going to say the same thing to you. I'm proud of you, and you're doing a fantastic job. And keep up the great work, Zach. Anytime you want me on, I'll be happy to come. You're terrific, buddy. Thank you.
Thanks so much. In the words of Joe Beningo, and this is like a love fest now, all the love, bro.
How about this? In the words of Joe Beningo, after what's going on today, the last couple of days in America. Oh, the pain. Oh, the pain. What a disaster, bro. A disaster.
Thanks so much, Sid. Are you hopping on a motorcycle? Here's some motorcycles in the background.
I'm actually standing outside my gym. I'm about to do a vicious arm workout, and I swear to God, that's my Israeli trainer in the or going home on his motorcycle. That's why I gotta let him go. I'll see you later, Zach. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much. There's Sid Rosenberg joining us on the Zach Gelb Show.